red beans and rice. This is a meal that we probably have a couple of times a month. Usually I make it on Sunday morning. And I would like to say that I got this recipe from my mother, who was born in southern Louisiana, but she made other things. Red beans wasn't one of her specialties. So I found this recipe in a cookbook given to me by my sister-in-law, Judy Hanford, who lives in Seattle. And it was called New Orleans Style Red Beans and Rice. It was one of those cookbooks I think her hospital auxiliary put out. And I thought, oh, finally a recipe for red beans, because Jerry and I used to eat that when we met at Tulane. Anyway, so the first thing you need, you can just buy these at Kroger. Light red kidney beans, and this is a 1 pound bag. Since it's only the two of us eating red beans, I usually just divide it in half, because 1 pound makes just way too much. And there's the cat chiming in.
There's no extra charge for the cat.
No extra charge. So anyway, the first thing I do is this is the bag I bought last week, but I've already put in half a bag, so it's about 1/2 pound of red beans, and covered them in water. More than covered them in water, because they're gonna expand. And this is one of these things where you have to kind of keep an eye on it, and you're going to be adding water to it most likely. So, got this big pot. You don't need a pot this big, but that's what I do. And I salt them. I wish I could tell you how much that is, but, you know, I've been doing it for years, so I just kind of know. I'm going to go ahead and start those heating up. Now, you can buy just about any kind of ham. This is a canned ham, so the ham's already cooked. But I just chopped it into small pieces, not real small, but kind of pieces about that big. And I'm going to saute the ham in olive oil. We discovered years ago that olive oil is the best, I don't know, it just seems to be the tastiest. So I'm going to cover them up in olive oil. And we're going to saute them. Like I said, it's already cooked, but we're just going to heat them up and get them sort of brownish, but not really. And this will take a few minutes for...
But that definitely changes the taste.
Yeah, it does. So then, while that's sauteing, it'll help if I turn it off. While those are sauteing, and I've already done this, but these are the vegetables that go in. It's 1 onion chopped, not into small pieces. I think that's maybe 4 or 5 green onions, and about 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic. And you can just buy, I don't use garlic that often, I use onions quite a bit. So this is just a jar of minced onion, you know, it lasts forever. And as soon as the ham sautés in the olive oil, I'm going to put all of that in with the beans, and then I'm going to saute the onions and garlic in the olive oil that we sauteed the ham in.
Sounds like a secret. And will you bring the beans to a boil, or?
Yeah, I'll bring them to a boil and then cut them back. And this is one of those things that's going to take 2 or 3 hours for it to cook, so you can't really go off and leave it. But and you have to keep adding water to it. But I used to think it takes 5 or 6 hours. It's not really that long. More like 2 or 3. So it's about 9:30 in the morning. These will be ready by lunchtime, most likely.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, and also we're serving it over rice. And I will do that in a minute.
We're back.
Okay, so we've let the ham saute in the olive oil for maybe 15-20 minutes. I think it's a little brown, a little browner than I intended to get it, but that's all right. Not burned. And this ham is a canned ham. We've also bought it other ways, but as long as it's not a smoked ham or something that would interfere with the flavor, that's fine. So now I'm going to just take the ham, and I'm going to dump it right into I'm trying to save some olive oil, because I'm going to saute the onions in that. And I'm dumping all of the ham. Oh, and I should mention, you might notice that before these ham pieces were a little bit bigger, and my husband went back and cut them smaller, because he likes smaller pieces. So, but that's okay. You can have them whatever size you want them.
But definitely not sausage.
No, not. In fact, actually, the first time I read this recipe, it called for salted salt pork. And so I was just following the recipe because I was very young, and it was not good. So this is trial and error over the years. I can't seem to get these last little pieces. Trial and error over the years, we've decided we just like ham in it because it's so tasty. And just like, you like the flavor. And if you don't like ham, if you're opposed to eating meat, then you can just eat around it. You just don't eat the ham pieces, but it really gives it great flavor. So you can see the red beans, they're boiling now, and they've taken up a lot of the water. So I'm gonna have to add some more water to it, but they're on right about medium. I could cut it back just a little bit, and I'm gonna pour some more water in there because, like I said, the beans will soak up a lot of the water, and you might just need to keep adding water to it. Now I should also say, a lot of people add Tabasco hot sauce. That's fine. I can't handle it, but you could. I would recommend Tabasco sauce if you want to use that. And a lot of people put pepper and fresh ground pepper. I don't fool with that either. You can always add that later if you want. Anyway, so now we have the chopped up onions. It's one fairly large onion and 4 or 5 green onions and about half a teaspoon of garlic, minced garlic. And I'm going to dump it in the same olive oil that we use for the ham. And I might need to add, well, it looks like we're pretty good here. I might add just a wee bit of olive oil just to make sure it's all covered. And we're going to saute the onion until the onions are not totally done, but translucent, sort of. And just keep mixing around like this. In the meantime, like I said, we serve this over rice. I have a rice steamer that I inherited from my mother because she grew up in southern Louisiana, and rice was like grits in the South, or like potatoes up north. You had rice with every single meal. She had a rice steamer. And what this is, this is just a really, I don't even know if you can buy these anymore, but this is about half full. The bottom part is about half full with water. And the top part, that's a cup of rice. And then I'm going to add a cup of water. Should have had that ready, sorry. So when you steam rice, the portions are, here you go, 1 to 1. 1 cup of rice to 1 cup of 1 cup of rice to 1 cup of water. If you just boil it on top of the stove, it's 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. But when you're steaming it, it's 1 to 1. So I've got this here, and usually they recommend putting a little, either butter or olive oil. And since we love olive oil, put just a tad in there, and a wee bit of salt. I'm going to mix it around a little bit, just kind of stir it around a little bit. And bring this to a boil, and I will steam it for 30 minutes, and it makes the most perfect rice. There's just, it's unbeatable. I've seen steamers that you can plug in, I don't know, just can't beat this rice steamer. So we're going to saute the onions, and when those are ready, we'll dump them in the red beans. Okay, we're on the last step of red beans, and I have sauteed onion, green onion, and a little bit of garlic and olive oil. And this is olive oil that we sauteed the ham in. And they're not really translucent, but this is probably good. They are going to cook that a whole lot more when I put them in the red beans. And guess what? I'm just going to dump this whole thing in with the red beans. Olive oil, everything. And I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to add a little bit more, because so this is what it's going to kind of look like. I'm going to add a little bit more water. And, oh yeah, that's going to be so good. And now, I cook it uncovered. I do have a cover for this, but I just like to cook it uncovered. It evaporates the water a little bit more and lets, gets the juices flowing and whatnot. And in the meantime, I'm going to cook the rice. I'm going to move it to this burner because it's slightly bigger. And I'm going to bring it to a boil. Now, this is not the top that goes to this. I have no idea what happened to the top. But this is the 1 cup of rice and 1 cup of water, a little bit of olive oil and salt. And the water underneath is going to boil, and this steam is going to come through these little holes. I'm going to put a cover on it, and as soon as it starts to boil, I'll steam it for 30 minutes. And the red beans will probably take at least a couple of hours. It's almost 10 o'clock. I'd say it'll be ready by 12 or 12:30. And I want everyone to notice my Chessie Kitty apron. I think I got this at Farrah's drugstore, probably, gosh, I don't know, when we first moved here. So that has to be, what, 35, 36 years ago. And I'm still using it. So anyway, we will come back when the red beans are ready and the rice, and we'll show you the finished product.
Now, and I believe the product is getting close to delivery.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so we boil the rice. Well, we steam the rice for about 30 minutes. And I want to point out this is a pot holder made by my granddaughter Hannah, who, this is one of her favorite meals. So here's the rice. And we're going to spoon a big spoonful onto that. I don't think that's enough. I think I'll put
2, please.
more than that? Not more? Okay. And here are the red beans. It's just about nice and soupy. We like them kind of soupy because I like what we call pot liquor. Pour it over the rice. I have a wee bit more than that, if you like that part. Now, plate of red beans and rice. And I would recommend, for those of you who like hot sauce, this is Texas Pete, but I would recommend using McElhaney's tobacco sauce because that's real New Orleans, and most people do put hot sauce on their red beans, and also fresh ground pepper if you have that. I don't use either one of these because I'm very sensitive about hot sauce, but this is a plate fit for a king. And we also serve it with French bread usually. And I have to tell you a story about this. When my parents, they both lived in New Orleans, were married in New Orleans, and remember one time they came to visit me at Tulane University. Jerry and I were dating at the time. And my father was just dressed up. They always dressed, nicely. My mother always, looked perfectly put out. And we took them to a place in New Orleans called Buster Holmes, which is in the French Quarter. I don't think it's there anymore. Jerry, do you remember where it was exactly?
It's at the corner of Burgundy and Orleans in the French Quarter.
Burgundy and Orleans on the French Quarter. And you could buy a plate of red beans like this, probably more, and a loaf of French bread and butter for 75 cents in the 1970s when we were there. So we took my parents there, and we stood in this long table, and here are my parents just dressed. My father probably had on a wool tweed jacket. My mother had on a dress, and and we sat with most of the bums and the ne'er-do-wells in New Orleans, sat next to them and shared a plate of red beans. And I think for $1.25 you get chicken breast with it too, if you want to spend more than.
Or a big piece of sausage.
Oh yeah, sausage. I forgot about that. But it's a meal fit. It's got all the food groups in it, I should think. So anyway, enjoy.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.